Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, text 22. Purushah saparah partha bhaktya labhyastvananyaya yasyantah sthani bhutani yena sarvamidam tatam. Purushah, the Supreme Personality. Saha, He. Parah, the Supreme, than whom no one is greater. Partha, O son of Pritha. Bhaktya, by devotional service. Labhya, can be achieved. Tu, but. Ananyaya, unalloyed, undeviating. Yasya, whom. Antah sthani, within. Bhutani, all of this material manifestation. Yena, by whom. Sarvam, all. Idam, whatever we can see. Tatam, is pervaded. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although He is present in His abode, He is all-pervading and everything is situated within Him. Please repeat: the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although He is present in His abode, He is all-pervading and everything is situated within Him. It is here clearly stated that the supreme destination from which there is no return is the abode of Krishna, the Supreme Person. The Brahma Samhita describes this supreme abode as Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, a place where everything is full of spiritual bliss. All the variegatedness manifest there is of the quality of spiritual bliss, nothing there is material. That variegatedness is the spiritual expansion of the Supreme Godhead Himself. The spiritual or superior energy described in the 7th chapter is also manifest there. As far as this material world is concerned, although the Lord is always in His supreme abode, He is nonetheless all-pervading by His material energy. So by His spiritual and material energies, He is present everywhere, both in the material and in the spiritual universes. Yasyantah sthani means that everything is sustained within Him, within either His spiritual or material energy. The Lord is all-pervading by these two energies. To enter Krishna's supreme abode or the innumerable Vaikuṇṭha planets is possible only by bhakti, devotional service, as clearly indicated here by the word bhaktya. No other process can help one attain that supreme abode. The Vedas, Gopal Tapani Upanishad 1.21, also describe the supreme abode and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Eko Vashi Sarvagah Krishna. In that abode, there is only one Supreme Personality of Godhead whose name is Krishna. He is the Supreme Merciful Deity, and although situated there as one, He has expanded Himself into millions and millions of plenary expansions. The Vedas compare the Lord to a tree standing still, yet bearing many varieties of fruits, flowers, and changing leaves. The plenary expansions of the Lord, who preside over the Vaikuṇṭha planets, are four-armed and they are known by a variety of names: Purushottama, Trivikrama, Keshava, Madhava, Aniruddha, Hrishikesha, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Sridhara, Vasudeva, Damodara, Janardana, Narayana, Vamana, Padmanabha, etc. The Brahma Samhita 5.37 also confirms that although the Lord is always in the supreme abode, Goloka Vrindavan, He is all-pervading so that everything is going on nicely. Goloka eva nivasatya khilatma bhutaha. As stated in the Vedas, Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6.8, Paratsa Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate Swabhaviki Jnanabala Kriyacha. His energies are so expansive that they systematically conduct everything in the cosmic manifestation without a flaw, although the Supreme Lord is far, far away. So it's a very nice verse. And if you see, there's a peculiarity, and this is true for some verses of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is speaking of the Supreme Lord in third person. He, like you see, Purusha Saha. Saha means he. And sometimes the Mayavadis may interpret this as, he is referring to that Ishwar, that impersonal. Impersonal means it cannot be Saha. Saha means he, it's a person, personal reference. So, why then there is third person when he could have said me? Why not me? Why is he? So, it's because Krishna has unlimited expansions, and we have learned the other day in Nityananda Trayodashi that Balaram is the first expansion from Krishna, and from Balaram, this is in the spiritual world, but some people actually got confused. They thought that I was referring to 5,000 years ago when Krishna and Balaram came. That is not the beginning of Krishna. Krishna is always there in the spiritual world. Sometimes he makes guest appearance in this material world. So once in a day of Brahma, he comes here. So last time he came was 5,000 years ago, but otherwise every 8.64 billion years he comes. One day, 24 hours of Brahma is our 8.64 billion years. So once in every day of Brahma he comes in the 7th Manu, 28th cycle, Dwapar Yuga he comes. So each Manu lasts for 71 cycles of the 4 yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, Kali. And there are 14 such Manus in one day of Brahma, altogether adding up to 1,000 cycles of. If you divide 1,000 cycles by 14, you will get 71.28 or something like that. So 71 cycles for each Manu. So on the 7th Manu, 28th cycle is when Krishna will come. That means if 14 Manus is daytime of Brahma, from sunrise to sunset, in our calculation sunrise to sunset. So after 7 Manus will be the midday. So this is not yet the end of 7th Manu yet. So it's just before midday of Brahma. And in the 28th cycle this is, and this is when Krishna came. So we are fortunate to be in that particular cycle. This happens only once in 8.64 billion years. So we are now in that particular cycle, and that is our good fortune. So Krishna in his spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan, which is the highest planet in the spiritual sky, he has expansions. Balaram, first expansion is Balaram. Of course, there are very technical names. I won't go into all of that. Swayam Rupa, Tadekatma, Avesha. Today morning also Prabhu was explaining all that. But that is very, very, very technical. Even I am also not very conversant with all the exact names of each of those types of expansions and incarnations. So, from Balaram comes the Chaturvyuha. Chaturvyuha, which is Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. They are all Chaturbhuj forms of the Lord. So that is the first Chaturvyuha, and in that Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, there is Sankarshan. From that Sankarshan comes the second Chaturvyuha, again Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, second. That second Sankarshan is called Mahasankarshan, and he is the source of all. When we say source, of course, in the material world, like parents are a source of the children. So parents existed first, and then the child came later on. But in the spiritual world, when we say source, it's not exactly separated by time. They're all eternally there. At the same time, one is like Deeparchare Vahidashantaram Abhyupetya Deepayate Vivrita Hetu Samana Dharma Yastadrige Vahicha Vishnutaya Vibhati Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So, just as a candle, if you take with one candle, you light up many other candles. Now all the candles have the same burning power, but one candle has been the source of all the other candles. Again, here again it is separated by time. But this is the closest explanation that can be given in order for us to understand. But actually in the spiritual world there is no separation of time. Like, not that the source existed first and then the product came later, no. Like, we are parts and parcels of Krishna, but we are also eternal. So when did we become part? Krishna says, what is that? Aham bija pradah pita. I am the seed giving father. When he's saying that, he is referring to our bodies, but although he is our father, there was never a time when he actually gave birth to us, soul. So this is difficult to digest because of our material conditioning. We are used for many, many lifetimes. We are used to the concept of everything having a birth and then growing and then sustaining and then dwindling and vanishing. This is what we have been used to for time and time again, for millions of lifetimes. So we can't comprehend with our material mind how can things exist without time. Nimesharthakyo va vrajati nahi yatrapi samaya. What is the meaning of that line? In the Brahma Samhita, 56th verse, it is said, Nimesharthakyo va vrajati nahi yatrapi samaya. So nimesha means 1 moment, and ardha means half. So nimesharthakyo va vrajati. Vrajati means to go or to move. Nahi yatra api samaya. Yatra means in that place, the place where not even half a moment passes. That means time does not exist in the spiritual world. Or in other words, it is said, time exists, but it has no control over the course of activities as it does in the material world. There is Ashtakaliya Leela of Radha and Krishna. Ashtakaliya means, Kala means time, Ashta means 8. So 24 hours is referred to as Ashtaprahara. Prahara means 3 hours. Ashtaprahara means 24 hours. 8 times 3. So this Ashta time blocks, Leela. So in each of the 3 hours blocks, there are different Leelas that manifest. Like nighttime Leelas are different from midday Leelas and evening Leelas and all these things. So if there is Ashtakaliya Leela, then and if Nimesharthakyo va vrajati nahi yatrapi samaya, if one moment does not pass, then how come Ashtakaliya Leela can happen? So this contradiction is harmonized by the fact that, as Acharya has explained, Prabhupada also has explained, that time exists in the spiritual world, but it is very flexible there. It's not that if Krishna wants, from midday it can be now next midnight. If that's what you want to do. So there is no control. The time does not have a control over the course of activities. It's completely flexible. So anyway, so please try to understand that, although we cannot really comprehend. Just take it as axiomatic truth. Just accept it. So from Krishna, the first expansion is Balaram. From Balaram, the Chaturvyuha, Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. From Sankarshan, again second Chaturvyuha, Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. And that second Sankarshan is Mahasankarshan. And from him expand all the spiritual and material expansions and incarnations of the Lord. So all the Narayan forms of the Lord in the spiritual world, each and every Vaikuṇṭha planet has a Narayan presiding deity. It's stemming from that Mahasankarshan. And also the Purusha avatars. Avatar word can only be used for when the Lord comes in the material world. Avataranam means to descend. I've explained this before also. Music, right? Sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa ni dha pa ma ga re sa. So there is ascent is arohana and descent is avarohana. So avatarana means to descend. Atarana means to ascend. So when the Lord descends, he is called avatar. The one who descends is avatar. So in the spiritual world, the Narayana forms, they are not known as avatars. They are known as expansions, not incarnations. So anyway, Purusha avatars are the first avatars in the material world. Purusha avatars are 3. Karanodakashaya Vishnu, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, Kshirodakashaya Vishnu. They enter into, first he enters into the material sky, and then universes come out from that, Karanodakashaya Vishnu or Mahavishnu. And in each universe he enters again, and that is Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. And again he enters into this planet called Shvetadvip within the universe. There is called Kshirodakashaya Vishnu, and in that form, the expansion of that form is the Paramatma, which he enters into every single atom. So there's 3 entrances. And because he enters Vishate, then he is called Vishnu, one who enters. So, because there are different aspects, and here Yasthani, what is that? Antasthani. Yasyantasthani Bhutani. So this is referring to the Paramatma feature of the Lord, which is Advaitam. That means it's not different from the Lord, but Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam. So he has Anantarupam. So the super soul is also one of his Rupa. And because he is referring to him, so sometimes he is referring to he in third person to the Supreme Lord, although it is himself. And sometimes he refers to the same, like he said, what is that? I forgot. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati. You see again. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati. Brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudhani mayaya. Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. He is referring to the Paramatma as he, but sometimes he refers to the same Paramatma as himself. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto. This time, different. So he interchangeably uses this first and third person, but there is zero contradiction with that, because he is Advaitam and Anantarupam at the same time. So Sarvasya cha aham hridi sannivishto. Hridi means this is definitely Paramatma he is referring to. Matta smritir jnanam apohanam. So here he is saying, I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge and forgetfulness. So we should not be too confused by Krishna's references to sometimes himself as first person or third person. So this contradiction is harmonized by this understanding. So coming back to the verse, Purushah sa parah partha bhaktya labhyastvananyaya yasyantasthani bhutani yena sarvamidam tatam. So Purushah sa parah partha. Supreme Personality of Godhead is greater than all. What is this greater than all? So there are 2 classes of living entities in this whole material and spiritual worlds. Of course, there is the Vaubhuta Sargo Lokesmin Daiva Asura Evacha Vishnu Bhakta Smrito Daiva Asurastad Viparjaya. That means one is Daiva, Asura, the other is Asura. The godly or Daiva are those who are devotees of Vishnu, and anybody who is not a devotee of Vishnu, even though he may be devotee of any other demigod, he is considered as Asura. Unless he is devotee of Vishnu, he is termed as Asura. That is one thing. But another way of dissecting the classes of living entities is Kshara and Akshara, or Nityabadha and Nityamukta. So 15th chapter, Krishna says, I think 15, 16. Dvavimau purushau loke ksharashchakshara evacha ksharah sarvani bhutani kutasthoksara uchyate. There are 2 classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible. So this is, in other words, in Bhagavatam, it is mentioned as Nitya Baddha. where is that verse? No. Maybe I'm spelling it wrongly. Maybe Nityabadhaha, Nityamukto. 11, 10, 36 and 37. Nityabadhaha, Nityamuktaha. So here, I think this is looks like a question. Yeah. This is by Uddhava. It's a question. Katham varteta viharet kairva jnayeta lakshanaihi kim bhunjitota visrijet छयितासीत याति वा एतदच्युत मे ब्रूहि प्रश्नं प्रश्नविदाम्बर नित्यबद्धो नित्यमुक्त एक एवेति मे भ्रमः. Same living entity is sometimes described as eternally conditioned and other times as eternally liberated. I am not able to understand, therefore, the actual situation of a living entity. You, my Lord, are the best of those who are expert in answering philosophical questions. Please explain to me the symptoms by which one can tell the difference between a living entity who is eternally liberated and one who is eternally conditioned. In what various ways would they remain situated, enjoy life, eat, evacuate, lie down, sit, or move about? So he's asking the symptoms of both the classes of people. Why is he interested in Nityabadha? Because to distinguish them from the Nitya Siddhas. Otherwise, if we only learn one, then we would not know how to distinguish. If you only learn the right thing, like those three monkeys philosophy, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. That's not our philosophy. We should understand what is evil, so that we can actually distinguish it from the good. We should hear about evil also, but from the right source. Krishna says in 4th chapter Bhagavad Gita, Karmano hepi bodhavyam bodhavyam cha vikarmana. Akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gati. That means one must know what is sanctioned action, one must know what is sinful action, and one must know what is transcendental action. Only then we will be able to conduct ourselves properly. Because if I don't know what is wrong, then how will I refrain from doing it? Right? And if somebody else is doing it, I should correct that person. And if he's cheating others, I have to warn them about the misleading that is going on. So we have to know what is right and what is wrong. Both. Ubhayorapi drishtontastvanayost tattvadarshibhi nasato vidyate bhavo na bhavo vidyate satah. So there are two things, material and spiritual. And we have to know both. Not that we only know spiritual and we don't know anything material. No. We should know what is material also. But we should know what is material from Krishna. Oh, Prabhu, this is nice, Prabhu. Then I will, go to school and learn everything and go to university. And this way I will learn material. No, we actually cannot learn material from the material point of view. We can only learn material about material life, the real material, the naked form of material nature. We can understand if we are aloof from it, or learn from a source which is aloof from both spiritual and material. From the material, like whatever we learn in schools, they are already conditioned. They cannot see from the proper perspective. Krishna, when he explains, for example, it is a common understanding, okay, you know what, a boy grows up and then becomes a man and then gets married and then goes on. That's life. That's a set program. Everybody like it's a set program. But nobody actually takes renunciation seriously, because actually the Vedic understanding is we must, as much as possible, renounce this family life. Never even get into it in the first place. Especially for brahmachari, that is the training. Don't even get into it. So, even after such training, if he gets into it, grihastha life, then he will understand the pitfalls of grihastha life and how one can conduct oneself, how it is a source of illusion. But if we just go by the materialistic way, like what is modern education, modern upbringing is, then we will think that actually it is a platform of happiness. Oh, everybody should do this. That's what we think. And actually, when we go into Grihastha life like that, it's a huge danger. Because we can't see that actually, sometimes even we see, but we don't try to give up or don't try to get ourselves detached. We waste so much and our entire life pursuing this um, family bondage without any time for spiritual cultivation. And then, after having gone through all of that, we will force our children also to go through it. We want our children also to have, same thing. Family, this, that. So we actually cannot see the danger of material life if we just take to the material path. Only if we take to the spiritual path by Shastra, then we can understand. And even if we get into it, these shlokas will haunt us. Oh, yeah, now I'm seeing the shloka actually working. I can see it real time. That this is a troublesome position. So in that way, I will become more and more detached. So everything about because material world is also created by Krishna. So who can explain the material world better than Krishna? So we have to learn about both. So anyway, Nitya Mukta, Nitya Baddha, or in Bhagavad Gita they are referred to as Kshara and Akshara, and they are called fallible and infallible. So those who are in the spiritual world, they are Nitya Mukta, they are ever liberated, and they are called Akshara. And Kshara are fallible, those who are in the material world. Now, the next verse, 15-17. Uttamah purushastvanyah paramatmetyudahritah yo lokatrayam avishya bibhartyavyaya ishvarah. Besides these two, Kshara and Akshara, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord Himself, who has entered the three worlds and is maintaining them. So there is Purusha Kshara, Purushakshara, Purusha Uttama, who is Purushottama, who is higher than Kshara and Akshara. That is Purushottama. And that is, in fact, this whole 15th chapter is called Purushottam Yoga. The title of this chapter is Purushottam Yoga. So, when we today's verse, Purusha sa parah partha, so is referring to Purushottama, not to Purushakshara, which is the infallible living entities or Nitya Siddha living entities of the spiritual world. So it's very important. It's referring to the Supreme Lord. And now, He can only be known. Very important, most important line of today's verse is the second one. Bhaktya labhyasto ananyaya. So He can be obtained. He can be perceived and reached by bhakti. Bhaktya labhyasto ananyaya. No other process of yoga is actually recommended in this regard. Karma, jnana, all these fall short. And this He also explained in two other verses also, right? I don't know if more than that. But we have 11:54, I guess. Bhaktya tvananyaya shakya ahameva vidhorjuna jnatum drashtum cha tattvena praveshtum cha parantapa. Again, bhaktya tu ananyaya shakya. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. And then the other verse is, don't know, 1855. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyashchasmi tattvatah tato mam tattvato jnatva vishate tadanantaram. One can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me, by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. And of course, in Bhagavatam, there is this other verse, which is this one, 11, 14, 21. Bhaktyaham ekaya grahya Shraddhayatma priyah satam bhakti punati mannishtha svapakanapi sambhavat. Only by practicing unalloyed devotional service with full faith in me can one obtain me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am naturally dear to my devotees who take me as the only goal of their loving service. By engaging in such pure devotional service, even the dog eaters can purify themselves from the contamination of their low birth. So all these are pointing to one thing, bhakti. So, bhaktya, what is that? Today's bhaktya labhyas to ananyaya. If you see, those who have been able to, the Supreme Lord is unreachable for others, but for the devotee is not just reachable, but he is under the control of such devotees. Yeah? Not just reachable, oh, they can touch him. No, they will bind him. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Aham Bhakta Paradhino Hi Asvatantra Iva Dvija Sadhu Bhirgrasta Hridayo Bhaktair Bhakta Janapriya. 9463. Supreme Personality of Godhead said to the Brahmana, I am completely under the control of my devotees. Indeed, I am not at all independent because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires. I sit only within the cause of their hearts. What to speak of my devotee, even those who are devotees of my devotee are very dear to me. So, he's not at all independent. Sadhuvir grasta hridayo. Grasta means captured. So, if we have to understand something, usually how we understand, how do we understand something? We use our intelligence to, of course we hear from something or we experiment with something and then we use our intelligence to put those things and that is how we understand. But why it is said that by devotional service we will understand him? How does that work? So this is a thing about Krishna consciousness. It is intelligence with which we understand, but that intelligence is not by our exercise of our brain power or intellectual power. Dadami buddhi yogam tam. This is called Krishna consciousness. Bhakti yoga is also called buddhi yoga. Buddhir yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahasyasi. Buddhi yukto jahatiha ubhe sukrita dushkrite. Tasmad yogaya yujjasva yogaha karmasu kaushalam. Second chapter, 50th verse and 39th verse. So, it is said, so this Krishna consciousness is buddhi yoga. Nasta buddhira yuktasya. Those who are not Krishna conscious, they don't have buddhi actually. They have material intelligence, not transcendental intelligence. What is the difference between material intelligence and transcendental intelligence? Today, we had a long call. I actually mentioned these two people from America, they're calling and bugging me with these questions, doubts about our Shastra. They had so many doubts. How can we know our Shastras are true or not? So 3 hours the call went, three and a half maybe. So they were not accepting, even in the end they were not accepting. Although they were respectful and this and that, but they were not accepting everything. The reason being, although it is very simple for devotees, for non-devotees, they rely so much on their experience, personal experience. So they could not accept the astronomical concepts that we have in our Shastra. Because they are into this cosmology and trying to see from telescope and everything. So they could not believe some of the statements and then they say, oh, this is wrong actually. I said, no, they're not wrong. Why they're wrong? Oh, because it doesn't tally with our experience. Then your experience is wrong. You say, oh, how can you say like that? Your experience, I am seeing, and you're saying, you asking me to believe what I'm seeing is to be false. Yeah, our senses are defective. We can only see only little bit, right? The sun appears like a small dot, but actually it is very big, right? But it appears like a small dot. So, and a spoon appears bent when it is dipped in water. So, by our eyes, we will see everything very defective. So, we cannot rely on it and be very confident of our experience and not believe the words of the Shastra. So, it is actually very simple. So, if Krishna is right in so many ways, so I said, okay, if you don't believe that, it's because I was saying man never landed on the moon. Um, there's life on the moon, there is life on the sun. Because Krishna says in the 4th chapter, I spoke to the sun god. He said, okay, maybe that I cannot accept. But other things, there are many, many nice things in Gita, but this verse I cannot accept. So I said, this is your problem. If Krishna is right in so many things, you mean he will lie about one other thing? Why he has to lie? What he will get by lying? He says, yes, many other verses make a lot of sense. I mean, but this one I cannot accept. Maybe I will not accept that verse. So, that lack of faith is what will cause his downfall. It's very dangerous. So, so Krishna saying one thing is right, one thing is wrong. Just because I cannot, my experience is different. So in that case, then I said, then why do you even believe in Krishna? Because he said he believes in Krishna. Anyway. You can't prove it with your science. You cannot see his form. Why do you believe then? No, I feel he is there. Then what is this? You are you are going against your own scientific, methods of finding out. Now you say you are feeling. So he is caught between a Hindu upbringing and a Western education, and now he is nowhere. This is what happens when you half do something. Because he was raised by parents who were religious and believes in Krishna, and they used to go to temple, and they even now they go to ISKCON temple in America. They accept all of that. They like it, but at the same time, their brain, cannot accept because of their stupid education. And they're very, IIT Kharagpur candidates. Not so intelligence is a bit too much. That's what happens when you become too, intoxicated by intelligence. It's not that only fools will accept Krishna because they're not very intelligent. That's not a fact. But actually, devotees are more intelligent than any Kharagpur candidate. But they think they're very intelligent. Mayaya apaharta jnana. They don't surrender. This is explained. Krishna. It's not that they were something new. It's already explained by Krishna. Namam dushkritano mudha prapadyante naradhama. Mayaya apaharta jnana asuram bhavamasa. 4 kinds of people do not surrender to me. Who dushkritana, naradhama, mayaya apaharta jnana, and asuram bhavamasa. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. So, although they have some touch of devotional life because of their association with some ISKCON devotees, Hare Kṛṣṇa devotees, and also the upbringing of Vaishnava family, but because they had a demonic education system, they went through that, and then now they're caught between the two. And they say our heart says it is true, but our head says it is not. Okay, then you have a war between your heart and head, and you live your life like that. Confused what? Desi. American born, confused desi. Yeah, that's a fitting description for them. ABCD. So, what we were saying in the verse? Bhaktya labhyasthananiya. So why with devotional service we can understand? Why did it not say that with our intelligence we can understand? So Krishna will invest in us transcendental intelligence when we have service attitude. It is not that devotional service per se will give the knowledge. Devotional service will satisfy Krishna, and Krishna will give the knowledge. Dadami buddhyo. Because the same service, if it is offered without devotion, like Duryodhana offered one big feast for Krishna, Krishna did not take. Now, Vidura offered banana peels and Krishna took. Materially, it doesn't make sense. This was better. Why did you give up that and ate like a cow? Cow eats skin, banana skin and all this. Cow will eat. Goat will eat. Why did you eat like a goat? Like, it was much better. Duryodhana made it. So, no, but for Krishna, that doesn't please him. So, just opulence and all these things are not the pleasing factors for Krishna. Devotion is the pleasing factor. And when he is pleased, what is that? Athapite deva padambujadvaya prasada leshanugrihita eva hi janati tattvam bhagavan mahim no nachanye kopi chiran vichinman. My Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many years. Even Vedas, not to speak of material science and all. Vedas you read, you cannot understand Krishna. Vedeshu durlabham, adurlabham atma bhaktao. The Vedas, I mean, the sages are searching in Vedas, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Prakashananda Saraswati, reading Vedas, they cannot find the end, what is the Vedanta actually. Whereas Yashoda, she just tied him up, tied the absolute truth. How? She is greater than any Mayavadi sannyasi, any yogi. They are trying to reach where she's bound him up. So, but seemingly she is just like a woman, a household woman, whereas they are like very knowledgeable, quoting from everywhere, pakka vidwan. So is he available to one who is not a vidwan? Not. No, that's not the case. She played that role. If Krishna wants her to preach, she can preach. Like Rupa Goswami. Who is Rupa Goswami? He is a manjari. He is a gopi. Not even, there are Krishna, Radha Krishna in the Madhurya Ras. There is Radha Krishna, and then there are Priyanarma Sakhis, Ashta gopis, 8 gopis, and then there are other gopis. Priyanarma Sakhis means very, 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 very intimate, just next to Radha and Krishna. And then there are other gopis who assist the 8 gopis. And there are 100 of them. And then they have assistants who are a little bit younger in age. They are called manjaris. And manjaris will have their assistant, like the dāsa, dāsana, dāsa. Now, he is one of the manjaris, Rupa Goswami. One of the many millions of manjaris there. And when he came down, what philosophy he wrote? I mean, nobody can write books like Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Anybody in this material world cannot write a book like Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Lalita Madhava, Vidagdha Madhava, Ujjwal Nilmani, Laghu Bhagavatamrita. Nobody can write these literatures. You actually see how you know what is this rasa and mixture of rasa and then compatible and incompatible, all these technical details of rasa. I mean, complete knowledge of everything. It's not possible for any person in the material world. So they are actually very knowledgeable, but their own service is manjari, but it does not mean that they have no knowledge. I think the other 2 times I quoted in 2 separate sessions. This last 2 sessions I think I showed this verse. See, this is just gopi. One gopi is speaking to another gopi. Harimuddishate rajo bhara purata sangamayatyamam tama vrajavam adrisham napadhati prakata sarvadrisha shruterapi. The dust from the cows and calves on the road. The dust from cows and calves on the road creates a kind of darkness, indicating that Krishna is returning home from the pasture. Also, the darkness of evening provokes the gopis to meet Krishna. Thus, the pastimes of Krishna and the gopis are covered by a kind of transcendental darkness and are therefore impossible for ordinary scholars of the Vedas to see. And who is talking this? Paurnamasi to Gargi. I mean, they're speaking about just Krishna returning from the pasture grounds, a deep philosophy. They see the purport. Purport. This is from the Lalit Madhava. Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. Thus, he advised Arjuna to rise above the modes of material nature, for the entire Vedic system is filled with descriptions involving Sattvagun, Rajogun, and Tamogun. So, most of the Vedas are not actually this transcendental knowledge. Karma Kandya. Sattvagun, Rajogun, Tamogun. That's why Traigunya Vishaya Veda. The Vedas are only dealing with these three modes. Rise above the three modes, Arjuna. Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. So that's the point here. People are generally covered by the quality of Rajogun, mode of passion, and are therefore unable to understand the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis of Vraja. Moreover, the quality of Tamogun further disturbs their understanding. In Vrindavan, however, now this is important. In Vrindavan, however, although Krishna is covered by the hazy darkness of the dust, the gopis can nevertheless understand that within the dust storm is Krishna. Because they are his topmost devotees, they can perceive his hand in everything. Thus, even in the dark or in a hazy storm of dust, devotees can understand what Krishna is doing. The purport of this verse is that under no circumstances is Krishna ever lost to the vision of exalted devotees like the gopis. A deep philosophy. What is happening? Krishna is only returning from pasture. How much philosophy is there? They are conscious of all these aspects. Like this you will find many. So, but they are not sitting down and discussing Vedas, no. They are just absorbed in Krishna's pastimes. But if Krishna wants them to do so, like this Manjari, Rupa Manjari. She's what? A girl, a young girl, Gopi. But then Krishna ordered her to go and become Rupa Goswami in this world and then write. And then he wrote. Nobody can match. Nobody can match. So, bhaktya labhyastvananyaya dadami buddhi yogam. This is the thing. 10:10 and 10:11. Both. 10:10 and 10:11. So, tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayanti te. Pritipurvakam. Those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Priti Purvakam. Then, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. As much as our Priti is there to Krishna, that much he will give intelligence. So that's why it is said Bhaktya Labhyastvananyaya. Pritirna Yavan Maivasudeve Nalabhyate Deha Yogena Tavat. Namuchyate Deha Yogena Tavat. We will go there. But you see next verse. 10:11. Tesham evanukampartham aham ajnanajam tamaha nashayamyatma bhavastho jnana deepena bhasvata. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So Krishna has to give this special mercy. So basically with devotional service, we are pleasing Krishna. That is the whole endeavor, is to please Krishna. And Krishna will give all the intelligence. But if we try with our own intelligence without Krishna's mercy, that is material intelligence. And when Krishna gives the intelligence by dint of one's devotional service, that is spiritual intelligence, transcendental intelligence. And with that intelligence only we can understand Krishna. Therefore, Priti Purvakam, this is very important. Bhagavatam. Evam manah karma vasham prayunte avidyayatmanyupadhiyamane pritirnayavan mai vasudeve namuchyate deha yogena tavat. When the living entity is covered by the mode of ignorance, he does not understand the individual living being and the supreme living being, and his mind is subjugated by fruitive activity. Therefore, until one has love for Lord Vasudeva, who is none other than myself, he is certainly not delivered from having to accept a material body again and again. We all want to go back to Godhead, you know. We all want the destination. We don't want to take the journey. This is our problem. We think, oh yes, I'm chanting now, I'm going back to Godhead. The sad truth is that many of us will not make it. Most of us won't make it this life, or maybe even after 100 lives. So if we are in the hallucination thinking that we're going back to Godhead in this life, after this life, just because I'm chanting a little bit, then it's not going to be true. At the time of death, we will have regrets. We'll be very regretful. There is a actual truth, because we're not taking it seriously and we still want to go back to Godhead. How can that happen? Krishna Prabhupada says, even if there is the slightest trace of material desire, we're not going to be admitted there. We cannot. We are not eligible to enter. So how can we go there? We have so many material desires. When in which life we will get rid of them? So that's why we have to take it seriously even now. That's why this verse I showed, why this priti does not happen. Because karma vasham prayunkte. See, actually it starts from 554. Yeah. Nunam pramattah kurute vikarma yad indriya pritaya apranoti na sadhumanya yatatmanoyam asannapi kleshada asadeha. When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activity. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, I think it not befitting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activities of sense gratification, by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after another. So, we are interested in sense gratification, and therefore we are stuck here. Now, what happens when we are so much infatuated with sense gratification? Next verse, you see, this is what happens. Parabhava. Parabhava means, defeat. Parabhavastavabodhajato yavan jigyasata atmatattvam yavat kriyastavadidam manovai karmatmakam yena sharira bandha. So this is what is stopping us. Forget about preeti, love for Krishna or affection for him. We don't even have the inquisitiveness. How can I advance in spiritual life? I don't even have the inquisitiveness. So, if I don't even have that, where is the question of preeti? Yavan na jigyasata. As long as we do not inquire, atma tattvam. Yavat kriyastavad idam manovai karmatmakam yena sharira bandha. So, as long as one does not inquire about the spiritual values of life, one is defeated and subjected to miseries arising from ignorance. Answers we will get if we have questions. Like the other day, Nimanita Prabhu was explaining in his class. Now, you can have the perfect bona fide spiritual master, but if I have no interest, I cannot take any, I cannot take advantage of such a situation. So, the spiritual master must be qualified, the disciple also must be qualified. Not that, spiritual master is qualified, therefore I will go back. Where is your qualification? So, be it sinful or pious, karma has its resultant actions. If a person is engaged in any kind of karma, any kind. Now, of course, this is, not devotees, but even devotees, we are now, many of, I think most of you are working, right? So, that is karma. So, karmatmakam yena sharira bandha. We imbibe subtly. We imbibe the mentality of our colleagues, mentality of all the materialistic people that we are around with. What is that? Yasya yat sangati pumso manivat syat satat guna. What is that? Swakulardhyay tato dhiman swayuthanyeva samshrayet. This is what is this? Swakulardhyay. Haribhakti Sudhodaya. As the qualities of a nearby object are reflected in a crystal, one similarly takes on the qualities of a person with whom he associates. What is the first line? Yasayat. Yeah, Yasayat Sangati Pumso. Sangha means association. Sangati Pumso. Manivat Syat Satadguna. One similarly takes on the qualities of a person. So if suppose um, a blue light is here near me, then my skin will appear blue also, bluish. So because it is associating with the blue light. So a crystal, if you put red light, blue light, the crystal also will show the same color. So similarly, we also imbibe the qualities of the association that we have. So if we are associating for the majority of our waking hours with people who are, um, karmis, then these verses apply. See? Be it sinful or pious, karma has its result and actions. If a person is engaged in any kind of karma, not just one, any kind, his mind is called karmatmaka, colored with fruitive activity. So even though he may be devotee, there is a lot of contamination of this karmatmaka. As long as the mind is impure, consciousness is unclear, and as long as one is absorbed in fruitive activity, he has to accept a material body. And the next verse continues on from here. Evam manah karma vasham. Vasham means to be completely in tight grip. Karma vasham prayungte avidyayatmanyupadhiyamane प्रीतिर्न यावन मयि वासुदेवे नमुच्यते देह योगेन तावत्. Evam manah karma vasham, subjugated by fruitive activities. Karma vasham. When the living entity is covered by the mode of ignorance, he does not understand the individual living being and the supreme living being, and his mind is subjugated by fruitive activity. Therefore, until one has love for Lord Vasudeva, who is none other than myself, he is certainly not delivered from having to accept a material body again and again. Now, if you know the chronological advancement, stages of advancement of devotional life, we have Adav, Shraddha, Tatah Sadhu Sangha. Oh, okay. आदौ श्रद्धा ततः साधु संगोथ भजन क्रिया ततोऽनर्थ निवृत्तिः स्यात् ततो निष्ठा रुचिस्ततः अथासक्तिस्ततो भावस्ततः प्रेमाभ्युदञ्चति साधकानामयं प्रेम्णः प्रादुर्भावे भवेत् क्रमः. क्रमः means step by step. Now, in the beginning, one must have a preliminary desire for self-realization. So, in the beginning, there is Shraddha. That's why we come. Okay, we all have come. Okay, let me come and hear something. Then that will bring on to the stage of trying to associate with persons who are spiritually elevated. Sadhu Sangha. Then Bhajana Kriya. In the next stage, one becomes initiated by an elevated spiritual master, and under his instruction, the neophyte devotee begins the process of devotional service. They actually engage in devotional service. Then Anartha Nivritti. Then all the dirty things in the heart. What is the dirty things? This is our stocked up association with the material world. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. These 6 things. Those things have to go. Anartha Nivritti has to happen. We are all stuck there. That is not proceeding more than that. Then Nishtha, fixed up, unwavering in one's devotional service. Then Ruchi, there is taste. One cannot stay away from Krishna consciousness. One cannot spend a single moment without being engaged in Krishna's service. Then Asakti, that intensifies into spontaneous attachment. And that intensifies further into Bhava. And finally Prema, which is with Preetirna Yavan Mai Vasudeva, love. I mean, how far are we? I mean, so if we think we are going back to Godhead, and if Anartha Nivritti hasn't happened yet, then it's a hallucination. I mean, we are dreaming. So, but we have to take to the process seriously. Extreme seriousness is required. Then, of course, we can go back to Godhead. That is basically the point of today's verse. Of course, the two lines, the last two lines, everything is situated within him, and he's also in everything. That we kind of understand. We have read in the previous verses also. So I would like to stop it here. So if you have any questions, actually we do not have time now. We can discuss later these questions.